Hello students, you are welcome to session 4 of Unit 3. And in this session, we'll be looking at the use of teaching learning resources. My name is Patrick Ejay. Now at the end of this session, you should be able to list the functions of teaching learning resources, describe how to effectively use teaching learning materials, and describe the procedures involved in effectively using resource persons. So, what are teaching learning resources? And teaching learning resources comprise of teaching learning materials, and these materials are sometimes referred to as teaching learning aids and resource persons that a teacher uses to support his or her classroom teaching. And the teaching learning materials that a teacher can use to support his or her classroom teaching will include audio, video, audio-visual aids. If these materials mentioned are able to stimulate the sense of hearing, sight, as well as both hearing and sight. So those that stimulate the sense of hearing are the audio, those that stimulate the sense of sight, that is the visual, and the audio-visual stimulates the sense of hearing as well as sight. And examples of such teaching learning materials are pictures, we have textbooks, we have the board, duster, films, apparatus, televisions, projectors. All these are materials that the teacher can use to support his or her teaching. Now, what are the functions of teaching learning resources? And some of the functions of teaching learning resources include the following. So, teaching learning resources has the potential to stimulate students' sense involving sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. So if we are using these audio materials, we are using visual materials or audio visual, it is able to stimulate the student's sense of hearing, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing and sight as well. And these materials also motivate and maintain students' interest in a lesson. So whenever you are teaching a concept and you try to take to the classroom a material that is able to present the concept to your learners, you realize that their interest in learning that concept become very high and they fully participate and enjoy the lesson. It also reduces verbalism on the part of the teacher. When you take some of these materials to class, understand that if they are being used well, you are not going to talk that much. But then when we fail to go to classrooms with teaching learning aids, then it means that in most of the things we have to do the talking to help learners understand what we want to present to them. It also caters for individual differences among students in the class. So once a teacher is able to take, let's say, an audio-visual aid to the classroom, then it means that an individual who may be visually impaired will benefit from the audio, and an individual who is also deaf will also benefit from the video aspect, that is the visual aspect of it. So at the end of the day, we are able to attend to the various individuals in the classroom, and it also increases students' retention of what is taught them, because they see whatever thing that they are teaching them, and that also increases their retention abilities. Now, what are some of the effective ways that we can use teaching learning materials? So as a teacher, anytime you want to use teaching learning materials, it is very, very important you inform your learners what they must observe about the material and why they should do that observation. So if it is a chart, if it is a video, you have to let them know what they are to observe and why, so that when you are done and you start a questioning session to find out whether they really understood what they watched from the video, you can do that easily. And so if you want to use charts or posters, then you must ensure that the posters or the charts are neatly prepared. Don't just take any scrambled material to the class. At least the material that you use. So if it is a chart, a manila card that you've drawn objects on the card to present to learners, ensure that the card is very neat and the items on them too are well prepared. And also use appropriate colors in your drawings. Make sure you use colors that are visible to the learners, no matter their position in the classroom. And the charts or posters must also have captions or headings. So every chart you take to the classroom must have a heading. So for example, the model of the atom. So that the moment the learners see the chart, they know that whatever thing that has been drawn on this chart is referring to the model of the atom. And finally, ensure that diagrams and labelings are large and clearly visible to students at the back of the class. As a teacher, you can use different colors for the outline of a diagram on your poster. You can use different colors, some to do the labeling. Or you do all these things in order to ensure that it is nice, it is appealing to their sight. They would like to see what is there. The things or the writings are legible no matter the position of the learner in the classroom. Now, what are the effective use of the resource person? We mentioned that teaching learning resources are made up of the materials as well as the resource person. And who is a resource person? So these are people who have knowledge or expertise in an area or on an issue. So you may want to teach a topic and you find out that, oh, there is this person who can really give more explanation and details concerning this to my learners. Just invite such a person to help you in the teaching. So this can be physicists, it can be technicians, engineers, industrialists, who can make a positive contribution to students' understanding of a physics concept. So for instance, you want to teach your learners how to make use or how to use the vernier caliper or micrometer screw gauge to take reading. Now you realize that taking readings or length with these instruments are a bit cumbersome, unlike using the meter rule. You can invite a lab technician to come and teach your learners how to use this instrument. Now, what are the guidelines that you must follow anytime you want to bring a resource person to the classroom? And so the first thing you must do is to brief the resource person ahead of time. So let the person know the topic on which he is going to speak, the specific areas on the topic that he or she must touch, the date that you will need his or her presence, the class, the number of students, make arrangement for transportation, meal, all the necessary arrangements that you should make. You should try as much as possible to do all the arrangements before the resource person comes on the D-Day. And also prepare the introduction. So when the resource person comes, it is the duty of you, the teacher, to introduce the resource person to your learners. And also tell your learners to get in advance questions concerning the topic that they would like to ask the resource person. They can prepare a whole lot of questions so that when the resource person comes after the delivery, they can ask those questions in order to get the understandings that previously they were not having on the various concepts. And also write a letter of appreciation. So after the resource person has come and delivered the presentation to your learners, and your learners having enjoyed the class and they appreciating his presence with them, when the person leaves, it is good you, the teacher, you also send a letter of appreciation. Sometimes you can even do a phone call. It is very, very important. Let a person know you really appreciate his services to your learners and to you as a teacher. And you must also follow through or review the resource person's presentation. So in the subsequent days, you can just do a review of what the resource person presented to your learners. Now, students, in this session, we have looked at some of the teaching learning materials and persons that can be used to support our teaching of physics. And we have also talked about how to effectively make use of the resources that are at our disposal. Now, as we bring the session to an end, let us take this question. Now, state three purposes of using teaching learning resources in physics instruction, and give three features of a well-prepared poster. Get answers to this question and present it in our